Imagine you're at your own engagement party, family buzzing around you, laughter humming under the clink of glasses, love so thick in the air it feels like a performance. Then your mom hands you a glass of red wine, and something inside you shifts. What if one small instinctive move, a simple glass switch, ended up saving your life? Yeah, this one spirals fast. My mother had been adamant about throwing the engagement party herself. In hindsight, that should have been my first warning. Every napkin was creased with obsessive precision, candlelight matched exactly to the wine bottle labels. Even the playlist was handpicked to avoid any track remotely tied to a breakup. It was springtime in Charlottesville. I remember the weather, because it was the one thing she couldn't micromanage. Rain had cleared just an hour before guests showed, leaving the air thick with lilac and damp earth. The venue sat on a vineyard, the kind with fairy lights strung over every beam to make it all glow. Dreamy, soft, almost too perfect. Almost staged. Nearly 50 people were there, mostly distant cousins, a handful of Curtis's law firm folks, and conspicuously, not a single one of my real friends. My best friend Raina had texted that morning, said something had come up, didn't want to stress me out. I remember frowning at it. It didn't sound like her. But I brushed it off. I brushed off a lot that day. I was mid-convo with one of Curtis's aunts, something about lemon cake versus almond, when my mom showed up behind me with 2 glasses of red. "For the bride-to-be," she said, lips tight in that camera-ready smile. I took one, but the moment it touched my fingers, something was off. It didn't smell bad, not rotten, just faintly medicinal. My grip tightened on the stem. It hit something in me, a ripple of wrong. But eyes were on me. Delea, my sister, bounced up beside me, still flushed from a joke across the room. "Cheers, future Mrs. Calderon," she grinned, reaching for the glass in my hand. I didn't pause. I moved. I swapped the glasses with a giggle, like it was a silly sister bit. "Ladies first," I said, smiling. She rolled her eyes. Took a sip. Half an hour later, while I was relighting candles that had blown out by the buffet, I heard someone yell her name. I turned. She was near the bar, wobbling, her skin pale and waxy. Then she collapsed. Everything snapped into chaos. Shoes scraping, voices rising, someone shouting for help. I ran, lungs locked. Someone was already on the phone with 911. Wait, my mom was beside her, theatrically crouched, patting her with a cocktail napkin like she was on daytime TV. "She probably drank too fast," she said, with that same too tight smile aimed my way. "Or maybe she skipped lunch." I didn't move. I couldn't. Not with everyone watching. But inside I was screaming. Raina wasn't there, and Dilea had taken the glass that wasn't meant for her. That night, when the last car pulled away and the fake smiles faded, I stood in the shower until my skin stung. I could still smell the wine. Not on me, but lodged somewhere deeper. 2 days before, Raina had texted me. "Hey, your mom called. Said you were stressed. Thought I should sit this one out. Just trying to give you space." That's when it hit. Velma hadn't just thrown a party. She'd designed it. Every guest list, every detail. Like a blueprint. Like a trap. Rhea was the one person I would have told if I'd sensed something off. Velma knew that. She made sure Rhea wasn't there, and I let her. I let my mother steer the guest list, fine-tune the playlist, choreograph the entire evening, and almost reroute the rest of my life. I kept picturing Delea in a hospital bed while Velma, probably back home fluffing throw pillows, was already rehearsing her version of the story. If I hadn't switched glasses. That night, before she left the venue, my mother hugged me. Her hands were cold against my back, like they were measuring the distance to push. "You did great, sweetheart," she whispered, "just like we practiced." I didn't say anything back. But something inside me shifted. A voice I'd buried for years started crawling toward the surface. I walked into the kitchen, uncorked the leftover bottle, and took a long inhale. That same odd scent. Slight, sharp, chemical. I wasn't imagining it. The next morning, I called the event space manager to ask about security footage. I didn't know what I expected to find. I just knew one thing. If she was willing to go this far now, What had she already done? By early afternoon, the footage request was still processing. I'd barely eaten, just picked at dry toast, pushed eggs around like a kid avoiding anything green. Curtis offered to drive me to the hospital to see Dilea. I told him I needed space. That was only half a lie. What I really needed was truth, and I needed it without another glossy version wrapped in a smile. He sat across from me, clutching his coffee like it might keep him grounded. His leg bounced, rapid and nervous, the same tick he got before Big. Depositions. There's something I need to tell you, he said, eyes not quite meeting mine. I looked up, slow. Please don't say it's about the wine, he shook his head. Not exactly. Then he paused. We both knew what that kind of pause meant. 3 days before the party, your mom asked to meet. She said it was about logistics, venue, numbers, timing. Logistics, I echoed, voice flat. Yeah. We met at this coffee bar near the courthouse. Dead quiet, no one there. 5 minutes in, he said, she brought up my exes. Just dropped them into the conversation like talking about the weather. I felt something cold settle under my ribs. She said she didn't want you falling into old patterns. Said you needed something reliable. He hesitated again. Then what? I asked. She offered me money, he said. Told me she'd write a check right then if I ended things. Quietly. Walked away. Disappeared. I blinked, caught between disbelief and rage. She also mentioned the suit I settled years ago, he said. Said if I didn't cooperate, people might hear a different version. You're saying, I said, my voice tightening, that my mother blackmailed you. She didn't use that word, Curtis muttered. But yeah, that's what it was. I stood, arms crossed so tight I could feel my nails through the fabric. And you didn't think to tell me this before? I didn't want to make things worse. You were already stressed, and your mom, she knows how to twist things. She's very polished, I said. He didn't reply. Later that day, I finally responded to Raina's message from last week, the one where she said mom told her not to come. At the time, I'd chalked it up to Velma being controlling, but now I saw the pattern. Rhea wrote back immediately, like she'd been waiting. Wasn't sure if I should say this, she wrote. But I got a weird anonymous message this morning. Said, I was interfering, creepy tone. Looked like it came from some burner app. She sent me a screenshot. The message was short, but it sent a chill through me. She's fragile. You're making it worse. Walk away while you still can. It didn't take a genius to figure out who sent it. I stared at my phone for what felt like forever. My thoughts weren't racing. They were folding in on themselves. I remembered mom in high school telling me Jenny was a bad influence after we snuck out to a concert. In college, it was Lauren, my roommate. Mom said she was secretly jealous, spreading rumors behind my back. Over time, anyone I got close to became a threat, a warning, a liability. Always for my protection. And I believed her. I didn't just feel stupid. I felt hollow, manipulated. How much of my life had she scripted while I thought I was writing it myself? Curtis tried again. Maura, please, you have every right to be angry, but this isn't your fault. I didn't say it was, I replied, standing. But if I don't figure out how deep this goes, it won't stop. She's cutting me off. From everyone. I have to stop it. I left him in the living room, pacing softly between thoughts, while I grabbed my laptop and shut the bedroom door. One word. That's all I typed. Benzodiazepine. I dove into articles, threads, glossaries, cross-checking. Effects, accessibility, detection timeframes. Then I saw it. Buried deep in a medical site. Lorazepam. It jumped off the screen. The name. The soft bitterness of the smell. I knew it. I'd smelled it before. Velma's bathroom cabinet flashed through my mind. Behind jars of cold cream and carefully stacked vitamin serums, those little orange bottles. I zoomed in on the image. My breath hitched. I'd smelled this before. Not just from the wine glass. Older than that. The trace that used to cling to Velma's pillowcases. The faded scent in the lining of her handbags. It was rooted in me now. Embedded. I stared at the compound name until my vision swam, then slammed the laptop shut and stepped onto the porch, mug of cold coffee in hand. My phone buzzed. A Facebook message from Gavin. I hadn't seen or spoken to him in nearly a decade, not since junior year of university, when we ended things under what I thought was quiet mutual disinterest. But seeing his name lit up now felt like a sealed room cracking open, one I was always told never to enter. I saw the news about your sister. I know this is out of the blue, but can we talk? There's something I should have told you years ago. 10 minutes later, we agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near campus. Gavin looked older, sure, but not worn down. His smile came with a hint of guilt, like he wasn't sure if he belonged there. I almost didn't reach out, he said. But after what happened at your engagement party, it brought back a lot. I kept my face still. Go on. You remember how it ended between us? You thought I cheated. I nodded slowly. You never really explained. You just left. I didn't cheat, he said, voice steady. But your mom told you I did. I narrowed my eyes. She showed you that photo of me with a girl outside a bar. What she didn't say was that it was a study group meetup. She had someone follow me, then sent the picture to you, with a full narrative already attached. I didn't say a word. She also called my residency director, he added quietly, told them I was unstable, that I was holding you back. He looked down. I almost lost my placement because of it. I blinked. I tried to email you, call. I even left a letter with Raina. I remembered. Raina handing me a thick envelope the week before graduation. Velma had taken it from me before I could open it. Said it was Gavin trying to stir up last-minute drama. She tossed it into the trash in front of me. I didn't know. I figured. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. I kept copies, voicemails, screenshots. In case you ever, I don't know, needed to remember that I didn't just walk away, I took it. My fingers trembled. So it wasn't just me. He shook his head. I think your mom's afraid of you being loved by anyone but her. I walked out of the cafe in a haze. The memory of Velma hugging me the night of the party didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like a snake coiling around something soft, ready to squeeze. That evening I went to see Delia. She was curled up on the couch, pale beneath layers of blankets, a heating pad humming faintly beside her. She tried to make a joke about taking one for the team, but the usual spark in her voice was gone. I need to ask you something, I said, sitting down beside her. She glanced over, cautious. In college, were you in love with someone named Sophia? Delia didn't answer right away. Then, softly, how do you know that name? I shrugged. I found a photo in one of your boxes. She looked down at the floor. We were in love for almost a year, she said. Then Mom found out. What did she do? She called Sophia's parents, said we were engaging in inappropriate behavior on campus, threatened legal action, told them she'd destroy her father's business if they didn't pull her out of school. I swallowed. And the therapy? Delia nodded. Mom said I needed emotional realignment, picked the therapist herself, drove me to every session, sat in on some. I was so broken down. I thought maybe she was right. Tears shimmered in her eyes but didn't fall. I told myself she just didn't want me to get hurt. She looked up. But now I realize she was hurting me to stay in control. We sat there in silence. Later that night, I pulled out an old box from our childhood closet. It was scuffed and soft at the corners. Inside, notebooks, yearbooks, mismatched earrings. At the bottom, I found Delia's leather journal. The center pages were ripped out, but the rest stopped me cold. I feel like someone's always watching me. Mom knows things I haven't told her. She says it's intuition. I think she's reading my emails. I think she's talking to my professors behind my back. I closed the journal and leaned back. It wasn't just about the wine or the party. It was a pattern, and I was ready to track it. I opened my laptop and typed the title. Documented patterns. Velma Ridgway. I hadn't even named the folder completely when my phone rang. Raina. I got something, she said, skipping. Hello. You're gonna want to sit down. 5 minutes later, I was parked outside her place, engine still running. She met me at the door, eyes wide, holding a flash drive like it might explode. It's from the venue, she said, pulling me into her living room. I made a friend on their tech team. He was worried. She slid the drive into her laptop. Opened a folder, grainy video, time-stamped. She hit play. The camera angle was high, one of those overhead corners in the kitchen. It captured the prep table, the counters, and my mother. There she was, Velma. Calm, composed, alone. She set 2 glasses down, reached into her purse, pulled out a tiny dropper bottle, one drop, then another, stirred it gently with a spoon she'd wiped clean, then tucked both back in her bag. She checked her reflection in the microwave door. Smiled. My chest tightened. The footage kept going. I entered the kitchen. She turned, surprised, just for a second, then casually slid a napkin over the glass she'd tampered with and handed it to me. The smile never slipped. Then came the moment I swapped it with Delea's. Raina didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She was going to drug me, I whispered, barely hearing myself. And she did it smiling. It wasn't rage that came first. Not yet. It was colder than that. Heavier, the kind of betrayal that settles in your bones and refuses to leave. Later that evening, I went to my parents' house under the pretense of checking on Delea. Velma wasn't home. That made it easier. While Delea napped, I went through the drawers in the master bathroom. 3 prescription bottles, tucked beneath tissues and travel lotions. All in Velma's name. All from different pharmacies. One expired. One from 2 months ago. One freshly filled alprazolam, diazepam, cycloparin. My hands didn't shake this time. I lined them up on the counter, snapped clear photos with my phone, then placed everything exactly as I'd found it. I sent the pictures to Raina. Mara, tell me what you see, she replied almost instantly. Raina, that's textbook chemical suppression. None of those are mild, definitely not casual. The next morning, I stepped outside to grab the mail. Mr. Cletus was bent over his flower bed next door. Retired now, sharp-eyed, gravel voice, always polite. You got a second? He asked, waving me over. Of course. He rubbed the back of his neck. Didn't want to get involved, but I saw something strange the night of your party. Figured you should know. What was it? Your mother, he said. Came out the side door real late. Washed something down the alley drain. Had gloves? On, rubber ones, and this little brown bottle. Looked like the kind of stuff I used to handle in the lab. You worked in a lab? Biochemistry. 28 years. You learned to recognize chemical disposal, and she was being careful. Too careful for rinsing out wine. I swallowed. Would you be willing to write that down? He nodded. Already did, just in case. Left a copy in my shed. That night, I spread everything out on the dining table. Flash drive. Prescription. Bottle photos. Mr. Cletus's statement. Piece by piece, I added them to the folder. Evidence, phase 1. No more guessing. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. She wasn't just controlling, she was dangerous. I opened my phone, found her number and hit call. She picked up on the second ring. Darling, she purred, syrupy sweet. I was just thinking about you. I kept my voice steady. We need to talk. In person. A pause. Everything okay? No, I said, but it will be. Because now that I had proof, it was time she heard it from me, face to face. I scheduled a family lunch for Sunday. My neutral excuse to get everyone in the same room. Dilea had just been cleared to move around, so I offered to host at my place. I made pot roast, Velma's favorite. Let her feel at home, let her feel in control. That was always the trick with people like her. Let them think it's their stage, right up until you take the mic. The table was set for 6. Delea and Tamsin arrived first. He looked uneasy, kept glancing at his phone. Raina walked in next, gave me a look, sharp, understanding. Curtis came late, offered Velma a polite hug she didn't earn. Then came Velma. She floated in like she was descending from a cloud. Perfect. Makeup, pearls, a Tupperware of lemon bars in hand. "You always host so beautifully, Maura," she said, all sugar. "I'm glad we're back to family time," I smiled, then let it drop. "Actually, that's why we're here." Chairs shifted. Forks paused midair. Tamsin raised an eyebrow. "There's something we need to talk about," I said, my voice steady. "And this time, no one leaves the table." I walked to the TV, plugged in the flash drive, and hit play. The footage rolled. Velma in the kitchen, the dropper, the stir, the smile. She didn't blink, just watched. Delia turned pale. Tamsin leaned forward, stunned. Click. Next slide. Prescription bottles. Click. Mr. Cletus's statement, scanned and printed. "You tried to drug me," I said evenly. "And when Dia drank the glass, you blamed it on bad shrimp." Velma finally spoke. "This is a gross misunderstanding. You're overreacting. You've always been too emotional, Maura. Always making drama out of nothing." "Don't," I said. "Not this time." "I was protecting you," she snapped. "From yourself. From another bad decision. From another failure you'd blame me for." I didn't look away. "You almost put your daughter in the hospital just to keep your illusion intact." Silence. Then Delia spoke. Her voice wavered. "Did you know I was pregnant when that happened?" Velma said nothing. Delia turned to Tamsin. She knew, and still let me drink it." His eyes darted between us, unsure where the lines were drawn, or where they ended. Velma crossed her arms. "This is ridiculous. I've never tried to hurt anyone. You've twisted every kind gesture into some kind of conspiracy. You handed me poison in a wine glass, Mother." My voice didn't rise. "That's not a gesture. That's a choice." Her mouth tightened. I did what I had to do. The words hovered like a blade. Later that evening, I was rinsing dishes when Raina called. "She's escalating," she said. "No hello?" "What happened?" "I just got a text. No number, no contact info. Just this: 'You should have stayed in your lane. This isn't your story.'" I gripped the dish towel tighter. "She's threatening you now." Rhea exhaled. "It's darker than the others. This one, it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like intent." "She's losing control," I said. "That's why she's lashing out. But it means we're getting close." A pause. "I'm not afraid of her," Raina finally said. Her voice didn't shake. "I'm afraid for you." "I'm past fear," I replied. "I'm in survival mode." The next day, Delia showed up at my door alone. Her makeup was smudged. Her hands trembled around her tea. "She's trying to get in Tamsin's head," she said, flat and tired. "He's been distant since Sunday." What did she say? She told him I'm unstable. That what happened at the party was from emotional stress. That I might be dangerous to our son. "She's weaponizing your mental health," I said. "Just like she did in college." Delia nodded, eyes glossy. "She wants to break us. Just like she broke everything else." A pause. "She doesn't want daughters. She wants mirrors," I muttered. "Ones she can adjust." "She thinks we're her legacy," Delia whispered. "Not her children, her property." We sat in silence. Then Delia reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. Inside, photos, letters, tiny scraps of a life she'd once built, tried to reclaim, and lost again. "She made me think it was all my fault." "She made all of us think that," I said, placing my hand over hers. After she left, I sat at my desk and typed a message to Velma. "You've made your move. Now get ready for mine." I clicked send. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. There was a rejection email in my inbox from the Mid-Atlantic Arts Fund. I'd applied weeks ago, hoping to get a grant for a photo essay on domestic resilience. It was a long shot, but I'd poured myself into it. The subject line read, "Thank you for your submission." Then, regrettably declined. That wasn't what made my stomach drop. It was the second sentence. "Given the tone of your previous email, we know longer feel aligned with your mission. I blinked. I hadn't sent them anything beyond the application. Something was wrong. I called Rhea. Within an hour, we were sitting on her couch, laptop open, tracing digital threads. Rhea wasn't a hacker, but she'd worked PR long enough to know her way. Around metadata, IPs, backend trails. We found it, an email address created days after the party. Almost identical to mine, just one swapped letter. The message was smug, combative, laced with sarcasm, and it was signed with my full name. "Oh my God," I whispered. She impersonated me. Rhea was already scanning the header. IPs from Falls Grove, she said. "That's 2 blocks from your parents' place." "She tried to nuke your reputation," Raina said flatly, and she almost succeeded. I felt sick, like I'd swallowed a handful of stones. Velma wasn't just sabotaging relationships anymore, she was sabotaging lives. That afternoon, while I was still trying to make sense of it all, Curtis called. He didn't sound like himself. "They froze the contract," he said. "The film crew from Austin, my client, they've put everything on hold." "What?" I asked. "Why?" He hesitated. "They got a tip. Someone flagged me anonymously, said I was unreliable, difficult to work with, that I had a history of drug use." I sat up, heart pounding. "What the hell?" "It's about the lawsuit," he said, voice low. "The one from years ago. It was sealed. It should have stayed buried. Velma mentioned it in passing last month. I didn't think she'd dig." "But she did," I said. "She's coming. After all of us." He let out a long breath. "I didn't think she'd come for me like this. She wants control, Curtis. And she'll burn reputations to keep it." He lowered his voice. "Do you ever think she's just evil?" "I think she's afraid," I said. "Terrified of becoming irrelevant. And the only way she knows to stay important is to make sure no one ever outgrows her." Just before dusk, Delia showed up unannounced. She looked pale. Wrung. "Out." She didn't knock. She just walked in and sat down. "I need to tell you something," she said, quiet. I waited. After we broke up, Mom took me to therapy, said I was grieving in a destructive way. She picked the therapist, paid for everything, drove me there. I remembered that stretch. Delia disappearing for months, vague updates. Working through stuff. She sat in the sessions, Delia said. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to spin her version. I was labeled emotionally unstable. It went on my record. She said it would help me get time off classes. Said she was protecting me. My throat tightened. "She broke me, Maura," she whispered. I thought I was just messed up. Turns out she handed me the hammer and told me to start swinging. I reached across the table and took her hand. "You weren't broken. You were manipulated. There's a difference." Delia's chin quivered, but she nodded. "She has to be stopped," she said. I nodded, slow and steady. "And we're the only ones who can do it." That night I went into my studio, not to edit, not to shoot, but to reconfigure. I pulled out a camera, flipped it to standby, tested the mic levels. This wasn't for art, it was for evidence. I placed it in my bag, next to backup batteries, a spare SD card, and a printed copy of Velma's prescription labels. She wanted a war. She just got one. By Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. A message from Raina, just a screenshot, a Facebook page. My name, my photo. But not me. The bio read, "Raw, real, recovering from betrayal." The posts were vague and bitter. Emotional outbursts, cryptic quotes about trust, captions about unworthy men. Then the worst, a blurry backdated photo of Curtis at our engagement party holding a wine glass. The caption read, "How many lies fit in a toast?" Other images followed, private ones. Shots I'd never uploaded. I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. This wasn't just sabotage. This was character assassination. "She made this," I whispered to no one. The page had been created 4 days ago. Metadata on the photos matched the iPhone model Velma still used. Raina dug further. The IP, residential, Falls Grove. She wasn't even hiding anymore. She was trying to erase me while the lights were still on. I reported the page, flagged every post, then I screen recorded. All of it, evidence, again. She's not just destroying my relationships, I told Raina over the phone. She's trying to replace me with a version of me she can control. And what are you going to do? Ria asked, voice soft. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I turned to Curtis. We're not waiting anymore. That weekend, we got, married. Not the wedding we planned. No country club, no catered hors d'oeuvres, no guest list handpicked by Velma. Just 10 people. A friend's vineyard an hour outside town. The late sun filtered through bare vines. The air smelled like earth and pine. I wore a white linen dress I'd found in a vintage shop. Raina officiated. Delia stood beside me, mascara smudged but smiling. Gavin brought his camera. Tamsin held Delia's hand, their son squirming on his. Hip, we kept it simple. No spoken vows. Just quiet promises exchanged through eyes and touch. No tears. No drama. Just peace. It wasn't the wedding Velma designed. It was the marriage I chose. After the ceremony, everyone left. Curtis and I stayed behind, seated at a small wooden table, one candle flickering between us. He reached for my hand. You, still worried she'll find a way to ruin this too? He asked. She already tried, I said. But this part she can't touch. That night, back home, I uploaded something to YouTube, a 10-minute documentary I'd quietly assembled. Over the last few weeks, clips, voice memos, scanned documents, testimony. I didn't use Velma's name. I didn't have to. The title read, When Family Hurts, The Invisible War at Home. It started slow. An anonymous narrator describing cycles of emotional manipulation. I layered in Raina's audio, excerpts from Delia's journal, blurred snippets of security footage, just enough to preserve privacy. I kept my face out of frame, my voice was steady. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I told the truth. By morning, it had 10,000 views. By afternoon, 50. The comments poured in. I thought I was alone. This is my mom, word for word. Thank you for saying it out loud. Some offered comfort, some shared stories of their own. One simply wrote, She doesn't own your story anymore. That evening, I got a voicemail. Velma's voice. Smooth, unbothered. So, she began, this is the game now. You want to paint me as the villain? Don't forget who raised you, who fed you, who built your future. Her voice turned cold. I made you, and I can unmake you. Don't push me, Mora. I held the phone in my hand for a full minute before I hit delete. No reply, no more power plays. I whispered, barely audible to no one at all. Not this time. And this time, I meant it. By Friday morning, I did something I never thought I would. I uploaded the full unedited video of the family confrontation. The audio wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Clear enough to catch the moment the security footage played. Velma's scoff, her voice, sharp as ever. Oh, please, Mora, you've always been dramatic. You're twisting things like you always do. The table had gone silent in that clip. Raina's wide eyes, Delia trembling, Tamsin frowning, then Velma again, dismissive. So I've kept tabs. Big deal. I'm your mother. I have a right to be concerned. I hadn't planned to release it. But after that voicemail, I knew. Silence only feeds her. Ria reshared it across platforms with the caption, This is what covert emotional abuse sounds like. Listen carefully. You might recognize someone. It hit a nerve. Comments flooded in. Heartbreak, fury, relief. Some said they'd heard those same lines from their own parents. Others admitted they'd never called it abuse until now. I hadn't just named her. I held up a mirror. Velma couldn't twist this into oversensitivity or rebellion. She was on tape, and the internet never forgets. Curtis spoke next. He'd carried the guilt, the shame, letting her corner him like a child, but the gloves were off. He published a blog post when my fiancé's mother tried to buy me off. It was brutal, honest. Screenshots of her offer, $20,000 to walk away respectfully. A veiled threat, tied to his old settlement. Her parting line: "It's better to exit early than be exposed later." It spread like wildfire. Men's mental health forums picked it up. Women messaged, "My mother-in-law tried the same thing." A therapist even quoted it in a podcast. This is how weaponized power moves through generations and across gender lines. And when I read his closing line, I didn't speak up to hurt her. I spoke up so no one else feels cornered the way I did. I cried. Not because he spoke, but because for the first time, someone believed me, out loud, in public. Meanwhile, Tamsin, quiet, steady Tamsin, stood up too. It was a local event. Family mental health awareness. He'd been asked to speak. Delia didn't even know. I sat beside her, watching her shift nervously as he walked to the mic. He began simply, talking about their early years. Then he looked out at the crowd and said, "My wife is not unstable. She's not dangerous. She's resilient. But what she survived wasn't protection. It was manipulation." He told them about Velma's quiet conversations, the subtle warnings that Delia might be a risk, how he had believed them, how ashamed he was, and how he'd finally seen the truth. "She almost cost me my family," he said. "But I know better. Now." Delia said nothing. Her cheeks were damp. Then their son, nestled on her lap, clapped his hands with wide-eyed joy. "Mommy, you're brave," he said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "That moment will stay with me forever." Velma didn't respond right away. She didn't post. She didn't call. She didn't send letters. But the silence didn't mean peace. It meant power slipping. 2 days later, someone filmed her at the grocery store. She walked the frozen aisle, eyes flicking sideways at every hushed voice behind her. One woman murmured as she passed, "That's her. The mom from the video." Velma kept her chin lifted, but I saw it, the twitch in her jaw. The same one from my childhood, when she realized she couldn't control a room anymore. Online, the debates flared. Some argued for compassion. Others asked where accountability begins. But for the first time, no one defended her. Not publicly. Not anonymously. Not even with a maybe. The mask had cracked, and what people saw underneath wasn't misunderstood. She was calculated and caught. Months passed like breath on a mirror, only visible when you stopped to look. Fall folded into winter. Meyer. Inbox quieted, so did the buzz around Velma. Her phone calls stopped. No more appearances at charity events, book clubs, luncheons. No one asked where she was. They asked why she never apologized. I didn't answer. She didn't either. Raina told me Velma canceled her annual holiday brunch. No invites were sent. The women who once orbited her drifted into smaller, gentler circles. I heard she still went to the grocery store across town, wore sunglasses indoors, spoke softly at checkout. She didn't reach out. Not to me, not to Delia, not to anyone. And yet, her silence wasn't a win. It wasn't revenge. It was nothing. And for someone like Velma, that was the deepest loss of all. Control had slipped, not because I stole it, but because she wielded it so tightly it snapped in her own hands. Delia, meanwhile, was transforming into someone I couldn't have imagined at the start of all this. Every Thursday morning, she volunteered at a local support center for adult children of narcissistic parents. Sometimes she just sat with newcomers, handed out tea, listened. Other times she led small groups, her voice steady. "You're not crazy. You were conditioned." Tamsin started going with her, quiet at first, then present, nodding when she spoke, squeezing her hand when old guilt flickered. They started therapy, together, deliberate. Slow. Their son stopped flinching at raised voices. He painted sunflowers on the kitchen wall with his fingers, and no one told him to wash it off. Raina's podcast exploded. The episode about our story, she called it "The Poison in the Punch Bowl," got over 40,000 downloads in a week. Emails poured in, some angry, some grateful, all of them raw. Curtis, now hired by a nonprofit law firm focused on mental health discrimination, told his story during an onboarding meeting. His supervisor said, "Thanks for being honest." That's the kind of truth that keeps our work grounded. And me? My photo series opened in a modest New York gallery. Frames, each featuring portraits of people who had been silenced by family control. Each face carried lines of survival. One woman stood in front of hers and cried for 5 straight minutes. We titled the collection Unspoken. At the end of the exhibit, I left a guest book. One note caught my eye. "You reminded me that love should never require silence." I didn't know who wrote it, but I carried those words home with me. 2 weeks after the exhibit, I received a letter. No return address, but I knew the handwriting before I opened it. 4 words. "You embarrassed this family." That was all. No apology, no acknowledgement, just accusation, delivered with surgical precision. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I held the letter over the sink, struck a match, and watched it curl, blacken, vanish. She would never say sorry. But I didn't need her to. I wasn't healing to forgive her. I was healing to free myself. That night, I walked into the nursery. Walls still unpainted, crib only half assembled. On a high shelf, I placed my camera. Not to record. Not this time. Just to remind myself where I'd been and what I'd chosen instead. A soft kick rippled across my belly. I rested my hand there and whispered, "You'll never have to earn my love. Not like I did." It wasn't closure, but it was something better. It was peace. We didn't win by fighting her. We won by refusing to let her define us. Sometimes the most painful battles aren't the ones we shout through, but the quiet ones we walk away from. Mora's story reminds us that real strength isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your voice after years of being silenced. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you loved, just to protect your peace? If this story spoke to you or reminded you of your own journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. More true, powerful stories told with honesty and heart are coming soon.